All right, guys. Jackson Millan, the Wealth Mentor here, and looking forward to kicking off a new format that we're going to be calling the Aureus Leaders podcast. I wanted to get together a great bunch of blokes who I work with basically a daily basis. And we work together to be able to help our clients achieve some amazing outcomes. And we have a lot of fun along the way. And there's a huge amount of expertise here that I believe that we've got the opportunity to share in a new format for you guys to help you improve your profits, buy back your time, and build more personal wealth. So let's do a little bit of around the ground so we can do an intro for everyone. So starting with yourself, Harvey, do a bit of an intro. Who are you? What do you do in the business? And what are you passionate about?
Awesome, Jacko. Thanks, mate. My name's Harvey Lynch. I'm Head of Education here at Aureus and helping our business owner, service-based business clients improve their profitability in their business so that they can bank more profit, physically bank more profit in terms of cash, and get them to a position where they're starting to elevate their lifestyle. So in other words, we can say out of all the efforts we're pouring into the business, where are we at now? Where do we want to be? Help them implement a plan to achieve that so that we can then support them throughout their business journey to realize the goals, the dreams they had before when they first entered their life into business. And it all starts with that planning phase. And it's a great part of the business to be, mate.
Love it, mate. Fantastic. Rakesh?
I'm Rakesh Nairn. I am the head of accounting here at Aureus. And my core focus is to help clients optimize their tax, cash flow, and maximize their profitability within their business. Ideally, we want the business to serve as a vehicle to help our clients grow their wealth, get more free time, and build their ideal lifestyle.
Love it, mate. Fantastic. And Jimbo?
Hey guys, I'm Jim, Head of Wealth at Aureus Financial. I'm a financial advisor. I've been for the last 20 years. I'm the person that collects all the wealth at the end of it. No. So clients come to us after they create all the profit and we help them invest that and make sure that they're investing it correctly or in a way that's actually going to be sustainable and reduce risk along the way.
Love it. Fantastic. And Greg?
Hey everyone, I am Greg Robinson. I am the marketing director for Aureus. And Jim said when the clients come to us, that's pretty much my role. I make the clients come to us and the right clients, I think, getting the messaging and the marketing right, attract the right people for all the divisions.
Love it. Fantastic. So guys, we're all in the business of helping business owners create financial freedom faster. So I'd love to have a bit of a conversation around what financial freedom really means. And I think let's look at this from a couple of perspectives. When our clients come to us, what do they typically describe financial freedom? And in real experience, when we help our clients go through the process, what does financial freedom ultimately end up looking like for a lot of these people? Jimbo, let's start with you, mate. You're the wealth man. You're the creator of financial freedom for many of our clients. So like when you have a first conversation with our clients, what's their typical interpretation of financial freedom?
So when I sit down with clients, their initial interpretation of freedom usually looks at creating the pathway for them to be able to stop working at some point in the future and having enough income to move from working for time for money into making their money work for them. So usually they're looking at strategies to start investing in ways that are going to create that passive income for them. Usually they're not quite clear on what the numbers look like. So we want to actually look at reverse engineering what they need as an income source for the future, and then looking at what type of assets can help get them to where they want to be ultimately.
Love it, mate. Fantastic. And where does that convert into as a result of going through the process? Does that shift and change over time?
Yeah. So the goals of clients are generally going to change over time. So when we sit down, we'll create a 20-year roadmap. Now there has to be some flexibility built into this because things do change over time. But when we do see clients initially, it's good to have an endpoint in mind. So when we sit down, we'll look at their 1, 3, 5, 10 and 20-year goals. That could be lifestyle and financial. If we can get clear on what they are, it's a lot easier to actually work towards achieving them. So we want to put in some actionable items and make sure that they've got some what we'd call SMART goals. And that ultimately is going to help them get to somewhere where they feel like they've achieved the lifestyle they want.
Makes a lot of sense. And Harv, mate, you're working with clients primarily in terms of maximizing profit, which as we know is the vehicle that helps people. What do you think are the biggest impediments that get in the way of people creating the financial freedom that they really want as a business owner?
I think particularly at the business level, it's getting an understanding or getting the right information around what actually creates that big step in terms of identifying what the business is there for. Majority of business owners that I know, me myself including when I started out, just got into the day-to-day because I had a really good skill, dived into it, and it got to the point where I figured out this business idea is a hell of a lot more than just this special skill that I've got. And it becomes that information or the lack of around what do we got to do to get this business humming along so that we are banking good money. And there's a large gap there, right? To which this sort of stuff was never taught to us at school. And those lucky enough to be able to get that information from their parents has held them in good stead. But for the majority of business owners that we work with, there's a massive information gap there. And that's where we come in and support with that information, but also then implementation of that information into their business as well. So I think from my perspective, at the business point of view, that's where I see the biggest impediments for people are. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Rakesh, what are your thoughts on this, mate?
Accounting services generally mesh what Jim offers and what Harvey brings to the table, in that clients generally don't know what they don't know. Our job is to take them from being unconsciously incompetent to a point where they know what they want, or at least have some options. A lot of the time people will start out a business and they really just own a job. Ideally, that's going to keep them trapped in the business, and then the lifestyle goals that they've got, or, they might want more time with their family. They want more money, but because they're constantly in the business, it doesn't really give them options outside of that particular business. From an accounting perspective, we try to create as many options as possible, working with other advisors so the client gets the best outcome over the longer term. I think most of the time when, as I mentioned, clients will come to the table owning a job, we want to get them to a point where they've got a business that works for them and ultimately convert that into passive income. And then the likes of Jim's skill set can come in and help them grow that wealth for the future.
And here's the thing, guys, right? We know this stuff is so important because we live and breathe it every day. But this is not stuff that most people are actively looking for when they're stuck into the grind of their business. So, Greg, this has been one of the big challenges that you've been working on helping us solve. Of how do we make sure that we're positioned so when people are at the right place in the right time to solve these problems and work towards these things, that we can actually compel them to take action? So, mate, from your interpretation, being on the other end of the equation, what are these people really looking for? And why do you feel more people aren't actively looking for what we do?
I think it comes down to the intersection of their lifestyle and their business goals. And when you can align those, you start to understand what financial freedom means. Is it having enough revenue or savings? Is it having choice? And I think it's when you get into those different segments of, are they looking to sell the business? And from a marketing side in their business, are they set up to grow their business sustainably and scale it in a way? And I think what it comes down to is clarity. I think we all mentioned clarity. The clarity around the economics that drive your business will ultimately allow you to scale your marketing and your growth revenue. I think there are different stages of business, and I think there's different awareness. There's different levels of awareness in those different stages. So a small business, medium business, large business will all be thinking different things. I think the common thread amongst all of them is probably the lifestyle goals. So sometimes speaking to those tends to lead to where they are and, what that financial freedom means. And I think when someone's in a larger business, they're thinking about stakeholders, they're thinking about scalability. When someone's in the early stages, they're thinking about cash flow and growth and paying bills. And I think it's all about perspective, and understanding that in your business, wherever that is critical. Because you're going to say the right thing to the right person at the right time. There's so much nuance around that focusing on your business is key.
I agree, mate. And I think this is an interesting thing, right? I think there's a few contributing factors to this that hopefully those that are listening or watching can unpack this and understand building blocks that goes into making the right decision. Because the hard part for us as business owners is we endure so much decision-making fatigue because there are so many decisions that need to be made. And I think the most important thing is that there needs to be a goal, and a goal needs to be clear enough and important enough for you to want to emphasize doing anything about it. And there's an old saying that says, unless the pain of your situation is great enough, you're not going to do anything about it. And most of us, we're more motivated from moving away from pain than moving towards pleasure, right? I think the second part, as you guys have rightly said, there's an education component. You don't know what you don't know. And we've got to realize that finance and wealth and business is a very complex topic. And there's just so much that we need to understand at any particular point in time. And I think thirdly, there must be a catalyzer. And I've noticed that for the vast majority of our best clients, there's been some sort of catalyst that has been the driver of them wanting to go and seek a solution. That there's been maybe something that they've had pain for a period of time, but there's something that's caused a substantially amount more pain. It could be rapidly declining profits. It could be losing a significant person in their business. It could be having a child. It could be taking on a significant mortgage. There's something that usually puts this extra amount of burden of responsibility where they go, wow, I need to get more help. And up until that point, there isn't a lot of emphasis to do anything about it. What do you guys reckon?
I agree. I think you've got to, sometimes you just got to go through some of the pain to understand how to learn from it as well. So I've seen, having gone through purchasing businesses and merging with companies, what you learn on the back end of it is invaluable. Now I'm passing some of this knowledge onto my clients and expertise, and I know that we're all doing the same thing. So we're putting them in front of the right professionals to make sure that they're prepared to move away from some of that pain, or even just make some of those mistakes as well. So I feel as you get older, when you're building wealth, if you make big mistakes, it's really difficult to come back from some of these. And I think that we know that we've had clients and we've seen people make really poor investment decisions through their life, and that creates them to be more risk adverse. And so sometimes that can really stifle where they need to get to. So I think having a team of professionals around you with your best interests at heart is going to allow them to move forward faster and make those decisions quicker.
Oh, that's a really good point, Jimbo. Rakesh, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what's the value of having a board of advisors like us as you're growing and scaling a business, and what role does that really play for a business owner as they're trying to scale to 7 figures, 8 figures or beyond?
I think it's best illustrated if I give you a case study. Let's say, for example, I'm a plumber, or I've got a trades business and I'm really good at my skill. So I then decide, stuff these guys, I'm going to start my own shop. And because I just want to get the money in, I'll start I'll start trading as a sole trader. 2 years down the track, I'm like, they're going gangbusters. We can't cope with the amount of work that's coming in. So then I reach out to someone like Harvey and I'm like, hey mate, we're making all of this money. I'm not able to take a lot of it out. I'm still putting in a lot of hours, and my team does a lot of work, but I'm working more than when I was working for someone else, and I'm getting back less. So Harvey would go in, have a look at exactly what's happening from a profitability perspective, look at pricing, way that essentially they set up from a structuring perspective. And then he'd basically make some recommendations and put in place a plan to get the profits to a point where the owner can pull more money out. Part of that process requires cleanup, which is where the accountant comes in, and the accountant would then be like, the numbers they're shit. So we need to fix them up and make sure that it actually tells a better story of how you're actually trading. That's when the accounting people come in, they do some bookkeeping cleanup, they then look at some structuring, set the business owner up so that they've got more options into the future. So that may even involve moving from a sole trader perspective or sole trader structure into something where you're trading out of a company so that you're capping your tax rate, and you might have some underlying structure changes, which we'd liaise with someone like Jim and say, look, this client here is looking at building wealth personally. We've set up a trust as an example, and that's where they hold their shares. We want to hold other investments through there. We want to try and minimize risk from the business owner's perspective so that they don't hold too much assets in their own name. What I come across a lot is they feel like, for some reason, everyone has this innate want for, I've got to have assets in my own name so everyone knows that I'm wealthy. Who cares about everyone else? I don't care if people see me moving around with a sack on my back and no shoes and all, as long as I'm asset rich. And assets can come in multiple forms: property, shares, cash, super. And I think when you look at from the perspective of having an advisory board in place, Harvey's looking at the pricing and profitability within the business. it might be that an advertising campaign or a marketing campaign needs to be put in place. That's where someone like Greg would come into the picture and help that client get something that gets them more runs on the board. Sometimes it's just the smallest tweaks that you need in order to get that the leverage. Anyway, coming back to the advisory board element, when you've got a group of advisors with multiple skill sets that complement each other, the client is ultimately getting the best of all worlds, because you're not necessarily going to your accountant and say, hey, can you help me with a marketing plan? Can you help me with financial planning? Can you help me with some profit improvement or getting my business? Like accountability, I think is also a big thing. And not every accountant can offer all of those, or definitely can't offer marketing. Accountants are the worst at marketing anyway. So if you're going to your accountant and getting marketing advice, don't speak to Greg. So that's my take on an advisory board. As the client's business and wealth position grows over time, so too does the relationship with the advisory board. So it should be an advisory board which is there for life, long beyond the client's life missions.
I think that summarized really well, mate. And look, I think the interesting thing is that there are probably very few people in this world that possess all of these skill sets, right? They probably could be counted on one hand. But you wouldn't want one single person with all of those skill sets representing you, because they're flipping so many hats that they're going to confuse themselves. And we see this all of the time, that we've got mutual clients that work with all of our business units, and we get together and we have a conversation and we challenge each other and we share ideas, and we look to create this holistic strategy where clients can be progressing on multiple fronts at the exact same time, having all of these relationships. Like, prime example, we had a client who come on board recently who's got a phenomenal business, very successful investor, thought she had a good accountant, and got a surprise tax bill that hit her for a 6. And it's, oh my God, like I never thought in a million years that I'd be in this particular situation. I thought I was sorted, just because she had one bad advisor. And not necessarily that they were bad. It was just they weren't representing her best interest in that particular aspect of forecasting her tax position. And as a result of that ambiguity of outcome, she's got herself in a bad situation. As a result of them going on searching, we're helping her with a growth strategy. How do we scale to being a multi-7-figure business? How do we make sure that she's structured so she never has a surprise tax bill and she's got tax forecast in place? How do we make sure that she's got a proactive wealth strategy so she can continue to snowball her property and her share portfolio? And then once we've got all of that sorted, she's passionate about going and looking at business acquisitions. So there are very few other businesses in this world, particularly in Australia, that provide all of that expertise under one roof. And I think I'm very proud that's the capability that we provide. What's your thoughts on that, Harvey?
Yeah, mate, it's as a follow-on from what Rakesh was saying, and particularly what we deal with on a day-to-day, is that the board of advisors and having the right people in the right places, I see it just about almost daily with clients or new clients, business owners and the like, is that when they're chatting to their accountant, particularly we've got end of financial year approaching, where we have these conversations about, oh, well done, pat on the back, you've made profits this year. But as a business owner, you'd be sitting there going, that's awesome, but where the hell is it, right? Is one big conversation. We have a lot. So there's a missing element there. And then also there's another element that says, well done, you've made all this profit. You're going, where's the cash? Oh, by the way, we've got to tax you on this profit now. We've got a tax bill approaching that we need to pay. Oh my God, there's no money to pay that either. So there's all these surprise elements coming along, which not without having the right advisors in place, it can mean a big hole in your business. And it's sent a lot of businesses to the ground because of not having those sort of missing elements or the right people to fill those missing gaps, which is conversations we have quite a lot. And 100% agree that the advisors in the right place to assist any business owners is a key element to and scale and success in business. Yeah.
100%. Now, we do a lot of work foundationally to get our clients sorted in terms of their money game, maximize their profit, creating more cash flow, setting up the right structures, avoiding surprise tax bills, making sure we don't pay any bonuses to the tax man, and then helping them build wealth. But there's ultimately going to come a point in time where we've got to come back and think about marketing, of how do we throw more fuel on that fire to be able to grow and scale the business. So Greg, this is your area of expertise. You've had a career, a lifetime of experience in growth marketing and essentially scaling service businesses. But so many experts like us struggle with marketing. Why do you think that is, mate?
Why do people struggle with marketing? It's understanding that there are so many layers to the game. When you start layering psychology with decision making, with intent, with what appeals creatively, where they are in their business, what are the problems they're focused on, what are their internal triggers that are making them think, those layers create a complexity. So what we do is we essentially set up experiments in marketing. And this is the mindset you have to have, is that you're both a scientist and an artist, and you need to create experiments. And when you track the data, your decision-making becomes a lot simpler. For me to consider the 1,500 variables that are in play when I target an audience is impossible. But the machine learning and the AI nowadays does that for me. What it comes down to is understanding your market and the different intent that exists in that market. When it comes to decision making, why do people make financial decisions when they join us? I think it comes down to understanding the intent. So I built a marketing intent calendar, which mapped the different stages of the year when people make decisions and what they are. And I'll give you more tangible aspects to this. So in January, February, people are thinking about financial planning and advice. They're starting the calendar year. They're looking to plan their strategies and set some goals. In March and April, they may be looking for accounting and tax services, preparing for the financial year end. Australia, June 30th, the businesses seek to get their books in order and strategize their tax efficiency. Post-financial year, businesses seek services for finalizing their tax returns, starting the new financial year on the right foot. And so it goes on. The different stages of the year have these different levels of intent. Now, how does that affect your marketing? When you speak to the intent, your conversion rates will go up. Why? Because that problem exists in your audience. So there's an internal trigger that they're saying, and this is behavioral science that I just love, is when you align the internal trigger with the external trigger, that's the congruence that they're like, oh, this guy's for me. For example, beginning of the year, thinking, oh, I don't really have a plan. And somebody, little message pops up, says, hey, come and do a financial scorecard and see where you are now and get your plan done. And so that connection is now made. And that's what really spurs action in people, is understanding the intent that drives the internal triggers and then crafting the message that aligns with that drives behavior. The next phase is really, do they know you? Do they trust you? So what a lot of people do is they rush the process. They're like, I've got you now. I know it's the right time of year. But the next phase is they need to start to trust you. And particularly in our business, they're trusting you with financial decisions, which is a big deal. And I think that's one of the reasons where high trust is a big factor. Referrals are the fastest clients to convert because the trust level is at the highest level. So how do you move someone from knowing you to now trusting you? Is by creating a way to reach them consistently. When you create a way to reach them consistently, either through email, retargeting audiences, Facebook groups, recurring group calls, any way that they can come back consistently allows you to build more trust. Sometimes it's as simple as giving a little bit of value each time over time, where they see your face, they see you real, you're not some AI version of yourself. And as long as you maintain that authenticity throughout, that trust builds. That degree of trust will determine how quickly they can move past objections, fears. And so you can see how the layers keep adding on, where one mistake in any one of those areas tanks your conversion rates. And that's why the data I mentioned in the start is so critical. But when you look at the data and the data says, okay, we had a breakdown in the middle, or we had a breakdown at the end, I'm going to fix that part. And I'm not going to touch those parts. When you change too many variables, it ends up causing more confusion and you don't know which experiment worked. Yeah, that's a few reasons why people don't get it right. And keeping your process simple is one of the routes to success. Is when you keep it simple, you eliminate a lot of those variables and that room for error. And that's why when we teach people to, for example, service-based business, are you leveraging your local business services, Google business listings, your Facebook group? You can use those tools to target businesses in your area. For us, growing a followership in TikTok and YouTube, and then by adding value over time, you gain trust. And then by raising the awareness. So for example, Rakesh talked on restructuring a business has certain benefits. If you're going to sell, he raised the awareness. Now you know that restructuring is important for my future planning. And so then that really helps them make decisions.
Makes so much sense, mate. And look, it is overwhelming for most business owners, right? And I think all of us can attest, for the rest of us anyway, everyone except you, Greg, because you're a master of this, and that's the reason why you're with us, is that it is very overwhelming. But the big part is that we're all educators, right? What we do is complicated. And at the foundation of everything we do with our clients is we educate them to have a deeper understanding of what it is that they're trying to achieve and the best ways to get there. So Jim, for yourself, mate, how have you found your kind of content journey of distilling your education and like simplifying your IP? Obviously, you and I are writing a book at the moment. As an educator, give us a little bit of an insight of your approach to educating clients and simplifying these complex concepts to help them have those breakthroughs.
Funny, I was listening to Greg talk about the simple things are usually the ones that work. And it's exactly the same in financial advice. Like the amount of complex investments that I've seen clients get into that they don't understand, that also don't work, and the setbacks that they have because they feel like it's the simple stuff isn't sexy, but it's 100% what works. And if you get the simple stuff right and you consistently hammer away at just getting the basics really down pat, everything works out so much better over time. I think people want to fast track their wealth journey. And unfortunately, it's really difficult to do that successfully. There's not a lot of people out there that can do that have done that well, outside of potentially owning your own business and scaling that. But even we know that has the complexities. I'm sure Harvey will tell us about that in a minute. But for me, when it comes down to investing money, again, keep it simple, focus on the right strategies, make sure that the investments that you choose are good quality, that are going to work over a long period of time. There's nothing worse than losing money. And I'm seeing people do it, and it really does set them back significantly far, to the point sometimes where they don't want to invest ever again. So for me, creating good experiences through investing is really important. So when you're starting off, and so having a realistic expectation of what to get out of these investments as well, and what has worked in the past and what's worked for other people. And because we work with thousands of clients around investing, we build teams around them to make sure that they don't get caught up in the scams and the things that are the shiny lights that sometimes look really good, but reality is that there are no get rich quick schemes in investing. So we want to keep it simple. We want to keep to the strategy. My role is the accountability piece and making sure that they stay true to that and we course correct as we need to.
I love it, mate. I think this is a really good point, and I'm glad you brought it up. Our role as educators is to simplify and provide people with a proven pathway, because there is no sexy and sophisticated way to get rich quick. It doesn't exist. We are rewarded in a market commensurate to the value that we add, and we must be prepared to do more work than the average in order to be rewarded above average. It's just economics. And sure, there are often arbitrage opportunities in the short term, but those are reserved for the highly sophisticated and the highly lucky. And the vast majority of the people end up being unlucky. And we see people get caught up in this, right? Like we've seen people get caught up in crypto and Forex scams, lose hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars because it all sounded really good. And these people who sell these things are very persuasive. And more often than not, people lose their shirt. And it's just important. Once again, this reiterates the importance of having a board of advisors, is that our clients trust us to call us before they make these decisions, so we can at least give them a sounding board to challenge their perspective and potentially talk them out of doing things that could be catastrophic. So I think it's a really good reminder. What are your thoughts on this, Harv?
Yeah, I love the keep it simple, stupid rule, right? And from a business point of view, it's exactly that, from knowing and understanding right from the get-go of how do we grow a business using the skill that I've got, knowing that I'm being rewarded for my efforts, which is the foundation of what I look to working with a client in the beginning stages is let's keep it simple from the business model to the delivery. Are we generating money from us pouring all of this effort in on a day to day, coming up with the right pricing structure to make sure that happens and streamline it from there. It's a very simple process to go through, but I think not having that education up originally makes things very complex for business owners to try and figure all this out. And through, not everyone survives the school of hard knocks, mate. And it's a real statistics. But as educators, the key is to be able to recognize this stuff early. As a business owner, if you're thinking about needing that board of advisors we spoke about and getting on the front foot about making sure that happens, because I see it that so many of these businesses fall through the cracks because they leave it too long or it gets too late or they think she'll be right, which often happens with us Aussies, right? It's she'll be right syndrome. And quite often we suffer that as a consequence. So it is a matter of keeping things simple, getting the right advice. There's a phrase I once heard was just pay once, cry once, just get the team on board with you and make it happen. And from that point of view, that's pretty much my philosophy as a person as well, mate. It's just, make it happen.
I agree. I love it. Rakesh, I'd love to hear from you, mate, because obviously you deal with clients around some very complex tax and accounting issues. What are the telltale signs that a business might be in trouble financially, that they should be really starting to look at getting some help, getting a second opinion about their situation potentially before it's too late?
Overwhelmingly, the main one is cash. Harvey mentioned before, delivering the news that you've made all this profit, and business owners were with the extra cash. A lot of them tend to have that like unpaid debtors that are huge, and that's tying up cash. So the cash conversion cycle is then extended way longer than it should be. What I mean by cash conversion is the time frame between which they incur costs related to the job and when they actually collect payment on their job. That shouldn't go beyond your terms of trade. And ultimately, that means that business owners are funding out of their own pockets. Something else that you'd come across is potentially they're racking up debts with the ATO. When we look at a business, we generally look at their balance sheet first up. If the owner has a bunch of director loans in there or they're pillaging cash from the business, that's a telltale sign that, one, they haven't set up their personal finance situation appropriately. So they're having to draw more money from the business than most cases the business can actually afford. And generally, they're just operating off a whim. So I think it comes down to having a plan. A lot of businesses don't have that plan where they're chasing maybe 4 or 5 key metrics. It could be top line revenue, conversions on the number of leads that are coming through. You want a profitability percentage that you're chasing, and focus on those. But too often, there's a lot of shiny things that come up. I'm guilty of this in the past. Someone else says, this is a nice software or a nice little gadget that you should have in your business. And then you go and you borrow money in order to acquire that, or you're using cash which could be better deployed elsewhere in the business. Some other things are outstanding lodgements. They're doing their own bookkeeping. That one's a big one where it's cheaper for me to do my own bookkeeping than to engage someone else. Where I think if you have that mindset, then you're going to stay small. I like to think of any business, regardless of what industry, we should all be aiming to be bigger than Ben-Hur. And if we don't get there, at least we might just hit the treetops. So aim for the stars, and you can have a bit of flexibility. And the other thing is that they tend to only catch up with their advisors, whether that be from a financial perspective, a coach, or an accountant, on an annual basis. If they do have one, we've had some clients in the past where they had long-term relationships with previous accountants and they'd never met them. I was actually gobsmacked because ideally you should be catching up with your advisors or an advisory board, maybe quarterly, if not a lot more frequent. Because that allows you to keep your pulse on the performance of the business overall, and then you can deal with the multiple facets within that particular business. If I can give you an example, let's say, for example, let's say Jim has a client who is wanting to build some wealth in the property space. And that client has a business that they're currently renting their premises from a third party. Ideally, that rent is going to a third party and you're not going to get any return on it. It's just an expense. Why not convert that expense into an investment, which actually grows your wealth personally? So a strategy you might look at there, where you're using advisors from different specializations. You could look at potentially having a self-managed super fund strategy put in place where the self-managed super fund owns the property and the business rents from that property. Now, that's an overly simplified version of the actual process, which is why you need to engage with your advisory board to ensure that it's the right thing for you based on your risk profile, how much money you've actually got in super, and whether it's the most viable thing for you for the longer term.
Makes sense. And I think this is the point here, guys, to summarize. We've covered a lot of ground here today. We don't know what we don't know. You need to get clear on your goals and your aspirations of what it is that you're actually trying to achieve, both personally and in your business. And there's going to be conflicting objectives that are going to shift and change over time. 2, you must get educated. The 2 biggest parts as a business owner that you must understand is your marketing and your money. And you cannot abdicate responsibility around those things. You need to have a fundamental understanding that allows you to control the outcomes and be in the driver's seat for those 2 primary aspects of your life. And that encompasses growing your top line revenue, maximizing your profitability and your cash flow, ensuring that you're not paying any surprise tax bills to the ATO or paying the ATO any bonuses, and that you actually have a strategy for taking your business profit and turning that into personal wealth so you can have peace of mind and certainty around creating financial freedom. And you ultimately then need to have a team of trusted advisors that can help you create the space and create the accountability to have these conversations. Because for most of us, we're busy, right? And we can even become plumbers with leaky taps. So we have these conversations together because we want to make sure that we're practicing what we preach. And this is the key to being successful as a business owner. It doesn't happen by accident. So guys, as a parting note, I'm going to get everyone to share a pearl of wisdom before we wrap up today, but we're all on a different journey. We're at a different stage. And it's important that you understand exactly where you're at so you can identify the next best things for you to focus on to progress your wealth journey. So if you want to complete our 40-point financial performance scorecard, go to wealthhealth.au. You can complete the scorecard. You'll get a personalized report that'll tell you what are the highest priority things for you to focus on. You'll also get access to our 4 international best-selling books, and you'll also get a whole kit of resources that are going to help you implement what you get from that report. And this will help you work out exactly what you've got to do next. So that's my number 1 tip for you guys. Harvey, love to get your last pearl of wisdom as we wrap up today.
Sure. What I'd love to share and give to those watching is quite often we know we want to achieve in life or in business, and we can see it up here, right? But it's very difficult to put that into the how, the what I need to do to make it happen. But that's all you need. You only need to know that, okay, I know I'm going to achieve something. I just need to figure out how. So we assess our options, and those options mean reach out and speak to someone to get some outside advice coming in. Then that's definitely part of the solution. And from an education point of view, that becomes a critical element to be able to get the know-how, to know what to put forward next so that you can get that one step closer to your goals. And it's the knowing that what you want to achieve, but just look for your options, the how and what to do, mate.
Beautiful. Love it. Jimbo, what's your last pearl of wisdom, mate?
I think consistency is key when it comes to investing and building wealth. Get clear on what you want to achieve, and best time to invest 10 years ago, but if not, today.
Love it, mate. Fantastic. And Rakesh, what's your last pearl of wisdom, mate?
The key one is have a plan and work your plan. Short and sharp, but will get you immense results beyond your expectations.
Love it, mate. And lucky last, Greg, what's your last pearl of wisdom, mate?
So I think a competitive advantage today isn't just about what you do. It's also about the story you tell, and market your strength and make that your differential, and you'll likely grow.
Great advice, guys. This has been a lot of fun, and I think we did pretty well for our first run through, guys. So I know it's only going to get better as we progress. So guys, remember, when you watch something like this, a good idea in theory remains exactly that, just a good idea until you put it into practice. So make sure that you take action. If there's any way that we can help you, feel free to reach out, and look forward to catching you guys on the next episode. Thanks again, guys, and we will catch you soon.